guys, so we finally reached the end of 2020. It's been quite a hell of a year, if I do say so myself. We've already talked about the worst movies of 2020. I will link that in the description if you want to check that out. But now we're talking about the best movies of 2020. Now, a lot of movies of this year actually did get pushed into 2021, but I would say as a whole we got a fair amount of movies this year. A lot of good ones still did come out this year, even despite all of the delays and all that stuff. But I also do want to give the caveat going into this. There are a couple of movies that I'm going to either leave off or I didn't get a chance to see. For example, I didn't get to see One Night in Miami yet. That's one that I really wanted to see, but I just wasn't able to. And also, Saint Maud. I actually did see Saint Maud, but that's kind of like a movie that's tough because it did release overseas, but it's not released theatrically in the US or even on video on demand. So that one's kind of like left in limbo. So those are the big two, I guess you could say, that I'm leaving off the list. But I'd love to know all your lists down below of what you thought are the best movies of 2020. I'm sure everyone's going to have various different answers, and I'd love to talk about all of these great movies this year that we actually did get in 2020. Also, if you want to hear my more in-depth thoughts about certain films that are going to make it onto this list, I am going to leave links to the reviews that I've made about them in the description down below. But without further ado, let's get right into the honorable mentions. For my honorable mentions, I have Sound of Metal, The Gentleman, Borat's subsequent movie film, and Mank. Those are just a few films that were really tough, as some of them were actually in my top 10 for long periods of time and they just didn't make the cut. But they're still all films that I really enjoyed, and I could have a long list if I really wanted to. But let's get right into number 10. Coming in at number 10, I have The Invisible Man. Now, personally, this was my favorite horror film of the whole year. The suspense in this film is just so captivating. Leigh Whannell really knows how to bring out the best in these horror films, just building on so much fantastic tension until it comes to a crescendo later on in the film. Elizabeth Moss is excellent in this role. She really sells the story that we're getting in this, and I absolutely loved it. I think this is a really great horror film, and I'm really excited to see these Universal films get back on track after that attempt at the Dark Universe. With my number 9 pick, I have Defy Bloods. Now, I'm actually quite a big Spike Lee fan. I think this is actually one of his better films in more recent years when it comes to the stuff in his catalog. The story in it is so relevant to what's going on in today's world, and it really is just such a great film all around. I mean, it's so impactful emotionally, at least for me, when it comes to the story. The performances all around are great, especially the late, great Chadwick Boseman in this smaller supporting role. I'll talk about him more in a bit in a different film. I guess that's a spoiler if you want to talk about it. But Delroy Lindo really sells this movie for me. I think his performance here is excellent. It's so emotionally impactful. It just gives me goosebumps, some of the speeches that he has throughout this film. It's very thrilling. It's probably one of my favorite Netflix releases of the year. Coming in at number 8, I have Palm Springs. Now, this was such a big hit coming out of Sundance, and absolutely I can see why. It's such a fun, charming movie. Even though it does take concepts we've seen before in Groundhog Day, it does a good job actually making it at least something new and fresh that we haven't seen before from the genre. I'm generally not like the biggest romantic comedy fan, but this film does an excellent job at actually balancing the romantic comedy elements and also just some serious moments as well. I was actually genuinely shocked at how well it was balanced, and it is bolstered by some really entertaining cast. I mean, Andy Samberg, Kristen Milioti, both of them have amazing chemistry, so that definitely sells this film even more for me. It does kind of slide under the radar because it is on Hulu, and Hulu doesn't have the best tracker when it comes to original movies, but I highly recommend it if you haven't checked it out yet on there. Coming in at number 7, I have Promising Young Woman. This is a very unconventional film, but I actually had a lot of fun with 2/3 of the film especially. It's very interesting the way that the story unfolds. It really keeps you guessing, enthralling you the whole way through with its hyper-stylized visuals, the color palette, and also the excellent performances on display. I mean, Carey Mulligan, I love Carey Mulligan. I think she's a very underrated actress, but this is a career-defining performance for me. I think she really gives it her all here, absolutely selling the message that's put on display, and I think this is probably one of my favorite performances of the whole year. Coming in at number 6, I have Tenet. Now, Christopher Nolan is one of my favorite filmmakers working today, and he once again does a really great job giving us another fantastic film filled to the brim with awe-inspiring and miraculous visuals and spectacle. The acting is top-notch once again. I really love John David Washington in this role, and also Robert Pattinson as well, and Elizabeth Debicki and Kenneth Branagh. All of them give the great performances that you expect them to with this material. All the action scenes are so insane, the way that things are moving forward and backwards at the same time. It is also enhanced by Ludwig Göransson's pulse-pounding score that we get throughout. It's one of my favorite scores of the year. But I really like this movie. The plot is a bit complex, but I do think it does get better after repeat viewings, because I watched it a couple times now that it's on 4K Blu-ray, and I really enjoyed it a little bit more on the rewatch, because it was a little bit lower earlier on in the year, and now I have it a little bit higher. At number 5 pick, I have Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. I was genuinely surprised at how much I really end up loving this film. I wasn't expecting it going in. but I love so many aspects of it. From the performances, I think those are the greatest part of this, the powerful performances, not only from Viola Davis, but also Chadwick Boseman in his final live-action on-screen performance. I think both of them are Oscar caliber. They both really sell their roles very well. Amazing acting, much emotion and powerful dialogue exchanges that really conveyed the message it was trying to get across by the end of it, and I was absolutely floored by the end. I really feel like this was a great cap to Chadwick Boseman's legacy, at least in live action, because you are going to get some more performances with the Disney Plus What If show. But I really love Chadwick Boseman, and this just further hits that home that we're really going to miss him as an actor. Coming in at number 4, I have The Trial of the Chicago 7. Now, I'm actually quite a sucker for a courtroom drama, and this completely delivered because I love Aaron Sorkin's dialogue. I think he does a really great job here. The film easily by far has my favorite ensemble cast: Eddie Redmayne, Sacha Baron Cohen, Jeremy Strong, John Carroll Lynch, Yahya Abdul-Mateen, Mark Rylance, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I mean, there's so much talent involved in this film, and all of them actually do a great job in all of their respective roles. I think some of them do a little bit better. I was really impressed mostly with Sacha Baron Cohen in this dramatic role. I really wish he would take on more dramatic roles. I think he's excellent in those roles. There have been a lot of really good Netflix films this year, but I think this one takes the cake for me when it comes to my favorite one that's come out. It's very socially relevant with the times that we're in. I think that you're going to get something out of it by watching it. I think it's a really important movie to watch, and I really highly recommend it. Coming in at number 3, I have Minari. This and my number 2 pick were so tough. They were really neck and neck, but I really did like this film a lot as well. It's a very authentic experience watching this A24 film. You really get the sense of the authenticity of this Korean family trying to kind of make it on the American dream kind of aspect. I love this cast. It's super phenomenal. Steven Yeun, I think, is the highlight of the film. I really hope he gets some consideration awards-wise once we get to the nominations. It's an absolutely beautiful film to look at. I really loved following this family throughout its journey. It's such an impactful, gorgeous film as well, especially towards the end. I think the script is really well done in this and almost kind of, made me shed a tear. It's that beautiful of a film. Coming in at number 2, I have Soul. Pixar once again really knocked it out of the park. I mean, we all expect that at this point. I am a little bit sad that I did have to watch it when it premiered on Disney Plus. I would have loved to have seen this in the theater, but I'm almost kind of glad that I got to see it at home because it really hit me right in the feels, and I think someone would have probably questioned why I was almost bursting into tears in the theater. It's a very mature themed Pixar film. I was genuinely surprised by that because these are more, I would say they're mostly catered towards kids, but not always. Pixar really knows how to hit you right in the feels, this time around with a spectacular story weaved around life. And like I said, it's surprisingly mature, but it's full of charm and emotion. It hits you right in the feels, especially if you can relate to certain things going on in your life. It's really difficult not to get swooped up in the emotion in the story, especially with that excellent score from Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor. I always love that they're actually composers now, just because I am a big fan of Nine Inch Nails. It's really hard for Pixar to have many faults. It's excellent. I mean, Disney Plus, like I said, I am upset a little bit that it went to Disney Plus. I hope one day I can see this in a theater and maybe get even more of my feelings seeing it on the big screen. And with my number 1 pick, I have Nomadland. Ever since I saw this at New York Film Festival, it's been on my mind ever since. I loved practically everything about this film. I really think Chloe Zhao crafted a wonderful, poetic, passionate film about the nomad experience that's nothing short of breathtaking, from its cinematography, its direction, the actual actors other than Frances McDormand, who are actual real-life nomads. I think it's very authentic, and it's nothing short of breathtaking. Frances McDormand is a fantastic actress, and once again, she gives us another spectacular performance to add to her long list of, amazing performances we've had in the past. Amazing score as well. I mean, there's so many positives I could talk about. I love the score in this. It might not be my favorite score all around this year, but I think it's still beautiful with what we do actually get in the film. I'm personally pulling for Chloe Zhao to not only get nominated for Best Director, but hopefully win it as well. I really feel like she is the frontrunner when it comes to direction this year. And I'm also very excited for her to actually make the Eternals, whichever one you want to call it, for the MCU, even though I do feel it's going to be much different than Nomadland. Alright, so those are my top 10 best films that I saw in 2020. I really enjoyed making this list. I'd love to know all of your thoughts about my list, while you also share your list down below. Even though the year as a whole hasn't been great, I am very much excited to get into 2021 and all of the films that we're going to get, especially since a lot of 2020 films did move into 2021, plus the already 2021 films that we already had in the slate. I think it's going to be a really great year for movies if things don't move around and all that stuff. As always, thanks so much for checking out videos. I really do appreciate it. I love talking about movies with you guys. I think 2021 is once again going to be another big year for the channel. Hopefully you guys stick around, leave a like and subscribe if you're not already. But until the next time, I'll see you guys later.